Hello, everyone, and welcome back to video 2 of this classical ballet series. Remembering that your resources for this module include videos, right? So I'm doing a whole lot of talking, but please reinforce the discussion that I'm having with those supplemental videos. One of the videos is of the Royal Academy, and it takes you visually through movement differences, class differences that developed over time in relation to ballet. So then you're going to get to see some of the things that I talk about. Also, in that I make references to a few ballets, and those ballets are included on that resource tab, that resource page with those list of ballets. So we ended with Comique de la Reine, and this is given credit as being the first ballet, even though what is described in this event, this very elaborate, this lavish 5+ hour event, does not completely fit into how we would describe ballet, a classical ballet now. There were other elements that have since been dropped out and so forth. It is different. Bourgeois did create a libretto that he sent out to all of the noble houses, all of the courts in Europe as a testament to this wonderful event. But what was missing from this libretto is detailed description of the dancing, and it is believed that it is because he mentioned which songs were being played, and this song means that this dance was being played. So if I gave it a more contemporary contextualization, I would say if you are somebody that follows TikTok and someone says, "Oh, that TikTok," when they name the song, you would know the movement, right? So that a similar kind of thing, which works in that present time, but does not benefit people in the future. And that is where I get the basis for you writing about the dance forms the way that I'm asking you to write about them. Arbo and Guglielmo Ibero gave us this guide. They offered this guide for what they considered to be valuable as a dancer, what they considered to be a good dancer. And that was someone that understood rhythm, had a good memory. You need to know the order of the movements and how to perform the movements. Understanding of space, your body in space and in time. That's a proprioceptive sensory. A ballon, the lightness of it, because once again, in ballet, the focus is defying gravity. Coordination, you need to know how the different body parts move in respect to one another, and an inclination to expression. So remembering that the pantomime is still being used because there is a story and you're telling the story through movement without words, so you're not talking. So you need to be able to show with your face like what you're trying to express. So an inclination to expression. In looking at that ballet at court structure, the ballet at court there was a prescribed format: A, B, C, and D. Talking poetry recitation happens here, dance happens here, this type of music happens here, and those things were set. Now, what would change was the storyline, but because there was this fixation on the prescribed format, there wasn't always a clear continuum, right? So if this is the dance that needs to be done, but this dance is this thing, and the story itself is about harvesting of the corn and the crops, but this dance has nothing to do with harvesting corn and crops. Sorry, I'm in an urban city because I told you I'm at my mom's house. There would be a level of confusion, not necessarily cohesion between the theme and the elements of the performance. So that made it a little more difficult to understand, in conjunction with the fact that the performers are wearing masks. The clothing is restrictive people are wearing corsets, people are wearing heavy materials. So the range of motion that the performers have is also restrictive. So this means that, yes, it's an elaborate performance going on, but there's a little bit of confusion and a lack of continuum in that structure that they were offered. One of the tools that was made at a later time was a libretto, because the pantomime, right? We talked about that pantomime, these gestures that help to convey something. Well, if I'm sitting in an audience and these gestures are coming up, I need to know what these gestures mean. I have this book that I can look into and use that as a guide to better understand the performance. Well, that was a thing, but one of the things that Jean-Georges Nouvert comes in and says, he's like, okay, well, we had the spectacles that were happening in Italy, and we then took that and we're now at Ballet at Court, and we've got some structure, and now Henry XIV has moved away and we have this academy. So let's continue to up the professionalism of what's going on by increasing the technique, the movement technique of the performers. Let's have a through line, a continuum of the plot, the costuming, the lighting, the music. If the theme is harvesting, then let everything speak to that. My daughter is like trying to sneak in because she just came in from work. But, like I said, we're with family right now, so things are a little different. If you hear something, just ignore it. It's life. This is how we do things. So Nouvert is saying, let's have a continuum so that the audience can really understand what's going on. And along with that, let's simplify the pantomime. Because if the audience is spending so much time looking down at that manual, they're not really looking at the performance. They're missing information. These also are all really, really great ideas that are present in classical ballet as we know it right now. But at the time, he was being very different than what was already going on. And as a result, he lost his job. He lost his tenure at the Royal Academy. He continued to work, but people don't always like change. So this is one of those places of a reminder that sometimes when you're pushing for change, it's not always received really well in a moment, but it does benefit society because of his actions, because of those precepts, because of that radical thinking. We step into the Ballet D'Action, where the ballet needs to convey an idea, it needs to speak to something. People need to feel what they see on stage. Some important figures that are noted in your reading are Beauchamp, Nouvert, Camargo, and Sal. Camargo and Sal are given credit as being the first ballet dancer celebrities. So I'm not going to go too far into them because you have that reading that you have those notes for. So we're actually going to look at the theater. Ballet has come now to the theater. During the Middle Ages, a lot of the theaters were taken away, burned down, destroyed during the Middle Ages. And the only kind of theater that really happened was that of the church. So it's always going to have a religious theme to it. And sometimes that happened in ceremony, but it could also happen at the marketplace, so outdoors. But Louis XIV and his very performative nature decides, I'm going to establish his Royal Academy, and at this Royal Academy, we're going to have a theater. Now, when you move the thing from its home to a theater, it always changes space. Let's think about that Comique de la Reine. It was 5.5 hours at somebody's house. But now that we're in a theater, we don't have 5.5 hours. We have a shorter amount of time. But it also gives us space to raise the stage. Now people are not sitting next to you. So now when people are performing, they can see you on all different sides. So as a choreographer, I can then apply different types of formations into my choreography. Now we begin to see turnout because it allows the dancers to smoothly get across the stage. Now we see the introduction of that fourth wall. I'm not just at a casual, though elaborate event. I'm at a performance. I'm an audience member. You are the dancer. There's a difference. This also creates access. Prior to the academy, the only way you were going to see this type of presentation was if you were invited to the ball, if you were a noble person. But now the academy is there. I, as a commoner, can purchase a ticket and see these performances. I also can use this as a way to climb the social ladder, because if I audition for the academy as a musician or as a dancer, I now have a different type of wage, because once again, looking at those classical parameters, the classical art form is funded by the monarchy, right? So now I'm getting a different kind of wage. We are going to do one more slide, and then we're going to take a quick break, because as I said, there are going to be 3 videos in this lecture. I'm going to bring up the Maries, Camargo and Sal, to bring to your attention. Look at when Sal stopped dancing, her 40s. So sometimes you might hear in the US that dancers stop dancing in their 20s, their late 20s. But I want you to remember that that's only representative of one type of population, and the value of the dancers, you keep hearing me say this, what's important, age, and all those things are going to change depending upon the community and dependent upon the dance form. Like kabuki, a kabuki artist isn't considered a good artist until after their 50s, right? Also, you see Camargo decides that she wants to dance as fast as the men. So she decides that she's going to trim the hemline on her dress and make it shorter, breaking the code. Remember, Louis XIV was very much into this is how things need to be done. So she breaks the code at the academy by making her hemline shorter so that you can see her quick foot movement, and so that she can do the quick foot movement. What she also does is she changes fashion, because she's a highborn person. So the amount of eyes looking at what she does is different, because she has the aristocrats looking at her, and she's a dancer. So she has the artists looking at her. So she, by her desire to move differently, to have freer range of motion, changes fashion. We're going to stop right here and take a break and come back for the next video soon.